From being responsible for the Lakers' exit from the 2023 playoffs to time not being on his side, here's why LeBron James needs to retire ASAP. The 2023 Conference Finals display should have been enough for him to call it a day. Honestly, how bad was he? No one's taking anything away from the man's greatness, but it couldn't be any clearer. LeBron's not the player he once was. There's no shame in accepting that either. A player in his late 30s isn't expected to take the league by storm, and it's okay if he's going down the same route every other player has. At the end of the day, LeBron prides himself for being a team-first player, right? If that's true, how will he justify staying beyond this season? He's a shadow of his former self. He's not good enough to lead the team, and the biggest indication of that was his performance in the conference finals. Given his greatness and experience, it shouldn't surprise you that he still ended the 2023 playoffs with a double-double, scoring well over 20 points per night. But that's not the standard, is it? Everyone's used to seeing a lot more from him, and it's not about scoring consistently, it's about the impact he has on the team. He played poorly throughout the conference finals, and was the biggest reason behind his team getting swept by the Nuggets. Did you see how bad he was from the three-point range? He didn't connect on a single shot from the majority of the series. That's what killed the Lakers, because they were relying heavily on LeBron to make those clutch shots. But he hasn't been able to for a while now. He's struggling to come up to the level that made him what he was, and his efforts to hang on to his past glory are killing the Lakers. At 38 years old, he should be thankful that he's able to run around and somewhat pull strings on the court, but no. I'm LeBron James, so I'm gonna try to do something extraordinary as well. Tell me, how'd that work out for you? What was the need for that flashy dunk he attempted and failed to complete? Was it worth making a joke out of yourself in front of a packed arena? Probably not. But as courtside reporters noticed, he'd been struggling to put it down even in the build-up to the game, so it wasn't a surprise. Time catches up with everyone. The sooner LeBron realizes this, the better it'll be for him. Otherwise, he risks losing the legacy he's worked so hard to build over the past 2 decades in the NBA. For many, LeBron is the greatest player ever to play the sport. I'm not here to say he is or isn't, that's for you to decide. The problem is, the thing that set him apart in those GOAT discussions was that longevity. James has been able to do things no one else could manage late in his career. Even in his 20th season, he was scoring a lot more points than any other player has ever managed. That's very impressive and an ode to how much he takes care of his body. However, there's no cure for time. It stops for no one, and even though LeBron managed to slow it down, it eventually caught up with him. If he remains stubborn and stays in the league, which he's been planning to do, James will be putting his legacy at risk. And the question will be, is it really worth doing so? After all, if he doesn't have that longevity argument going for him in the GOAT debates, then he loses a large chunk of believers that think he's better than Michael Jordan. You'd think it doesn't matter, but trust me, it does. Especially to someone like LeBron, who's tried to sweep any issues and weaknesses under the rug and kept up his golden boy image to perfection, to the point where fans think it's okay for a player to meddle with the front office decisions. LeBron's never been like any other player. And given his insane ability, it's okay if he got to cut some corners and got some decisions in his favor, which wouldn't have happened for most other players. What's inexcusable is how James has gotten his way with the front offices of different franchises. Look at what he did in 2017 and 2018 when he was playing for the Cavs. Yes, Bron, well done for winning the championship with Cleveland, but that hasn't earned you the right to build a roster on your own. You want to do that? How about you buy a franchise, something that you've been planning to do, and then act like a GM? What's unacceptable is how he acts like a GM while being a player. He threw a tantrum and the Cavs caved, putting together a roster on his demands. We all know how that ended, and that the Cavs had no reason for making it out of the East. LeBron deserves all the credit for it, but he was only bailing out the person LeBron for some terrible roster-related decisions. He did the same with the Lakers, forcing the franchise to make a move for Russell Westbrook. And we all saw how that ended. These power moves need to come to an end. He hinted at retirement right after the loss to the Nuggets in the 2023 Conference Finals. But forgive me for not falling for that age-old trick.
LeBron in the paint, layup no good. Gotta go board, there's the horn! And the Denver Nuggets, for the first time in...
I've watched Bron long enough to know that he won't bow out like that. a sweeping loss in the finals as his last involvement in the NBA. There's no way LeBron's leaving with that stain on his legacy and that self-induced confusion over his future. That's just so LeBron, isn't it? He's been doing it for such a long time. He did it early on in the season too, when he hinted at how the Lakers' lack of ambition might force him to see the door. Well, it wasn't a lack of ambition. It was an impossible situation that they were dealing with, having been left with only a couple of picks, which James was forcing them to use on finding a win-now solution, all because he'd contributed in the signing of Westbrook, which turned out to be a horror show for the Lakers. So he needs to understand that it's time to make way for the younger blood to come in. Don't think for 1 minute that James actually cares about the Lakers. He only does as long as his interests are aligned with the franchise. But if he truly cared about making a stronger roster and leaving the franchise in a better place than it is right now, he wouldn't have held out for such a big money contract extension, which left the Lakers with a lot less money to improve their roster. But his impact as a player has waned too, and it's due to that foot injury. LeBron's been one of the very few players in the NBA who hasn't suffered any major injuries throughout the majority of his career. He remained injury-free throughout the playoff runs in his NBA career, and that's great. No one wants to see a player get injured and their potential go to waste. Unfortunately, it seems that injuries have caught up with him in the back end of his career. Just look at his injury history since joining the Lakers. That ever-present LeBron simply isn't available anymore. Staying healthy was one of his best abilities, but that's not the case now. He can't go a season without something breaking down, which shouldn't be a surprise after 20 years. Little injury troubles are acceptable, but LeBron actually risks affecting the quality of his life after NBA with the latest injury to his foot. He revealed how he needed to see the LeBron James of doctors just to get fit in time to take part in the playoffs in 2023. However, that injury won't let him go about his business in the 2023 season. He will need surgery, and he should go for it. But he faces a major dilemma with his son nearing the NBA draft. LeBron wants to play with Bronny before he calls it a day, and undergoing a surgery could ruin his chances. However, time is not on his side, regardless of what he thinks. Yeah, this is the ideal time to call it quits and walk away. LeBron's kinda lost his way, even though the stats don't reflect that. Injuries are piling up, and we all know how desperately he wants to play with his son, but LeBron will need to decide if it's worth ruining the legacy he's worked so hard for. There are rumors circulating of a temporary 1-year retirement, which would allow him to rehab his injury and return in time to play with Bronny when he inevitably gets drafted. We'll just have to wait and see what LeBron thinks about all this. So from time not being on his side, to the King being responsible for the Lakers' exit from the 2023 Western Conference Finals, here's why LeBron James needs to retire ASAP.